person. There we are. Sarah, there was a lady named Sarah that joined us.
Okay. So that's how it acts like a room. If I had the means to like use my school's Zoom stuff, we'd use that, but otherwise we're stuck at an hour and only so many people, and that doesn't quite work. So okay, well, we'll go from here. Well, in case you don't know, I'm Moon. I live in Callantyre. Been playing for about 31 years now. So I started out as a kid, 16, doing this on my own. So that's kind of how I go at this, is like showing people how to do it. If you were brand new and had a high schooler's budget, pretty much. So things will be a little different than from last time because the camera's going to move around. That way I can show you what I'm doing. I'm going to do kind of a combination of things. So what it'll be is I'll show you how I lay out the tunic and what I use. And then is going to be part machine, part hand sewing. That way you can show they can be done either way. And then next week I'll show like another portion of the outfit, and we'll just kind of do it in stages, that kind of deal. I'm also, if you guys watched last week's, I'm going to be using the tools that I got, not the more fancy stuff that I have access to. That way it's, you don't need all the fanciness. You can use this. Okay? Sound good?
Mm-hmm.
And then feel free to ask questions along the way. I don't mind pausing for questions and whatever we got to do. If we don't get quite done tonight, I can tell you what way to keep going, or show you some stuff. If someone wouldn't mind putting a comment on the event page that say, hey, just answer the group message and you can get into the class, that would help me a lot because I can't get to my screen at the moment.
So. Okay. I can do that. You want me to go back to where you had posted?
If you just go to the event page where like the comments and stuff are, you should be able to say, hey, answer the group message, and then you can get in. So I know I got one person watching on YouTube and stuff like that, but it makes it a little easier. I appreciate it.
Let me try to go do that, okay?
Okay. I'll get ready. I think I've got everything ready. The big thing to remember is this will be recorded. I'm recording it, put it on YouTube. It'll be in the Facebook stuff in case you want to watch it again later. And that way you have it handy. Or notes. Notes are also a good thing. Let's see. Next question is, can everybody see okay? Okay. And then as soon as Sheila
I
gets...
should be seeing at this point. Sorry.
Is that Bonnie?
Yeah.
Try putting your camera back on. It may be just the way you're connected.
Okay.
So. Can you see us now?
I can see some of the guests in a black square.
In a black square. I see your black square. Let me see if... I don't want to mute anybody. So...
It could be a permissions thing, too. She could have not given permission to Messenger to use the camera.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, you won't be able to see mine because I have my camera covered. I mean, you can't
Okay.
see me.
Well, we can
Oh.
we can hear you. I'm
It's
just
on.
yeah.
It's blue. If you're seeing blue, my camera's on.
Okay.
But I have 2 frozen faces and a black square and somebody's image from TikTok, and looks like a ceiling.
Okay. Well, I'm the face what looks like in front of a closet. So I wonder if it's a connection thing. Because I can see everybody else moving and stuff like that. So, well, if you don't mind, just kind of hold tight. I am recording it, so you'll be able to see the stuff as long as you can hear us.
Yeah. Yep, no worries.
Okay. All right. So, first thing we're kind of doing is we're going to be working from a t-shirt. Just a regular old t-shirt. Now, the big difference is, though, you want it to be a t-shirt that does not stretch. Okay? The reason for that is the material you'll be working off of doesn't have the same stretchy qualities as, most t-shirts do. Since they're knits. In my case, I'm using a linen flat sheet that came out of a set. Okay? First and foremost, we got our t-shirt, it's your comfy shirt. You can slip it on. It's not too tight, The reason for that is also there's not going to be any gores or gussets in it. We're just going to do like simple curve cuts to it. And then you don't have to worry about, having room for your arms and things to get through. First thing you want to do, though, is you want to fold your t-shirt in half, but you want whatever the front is on the outside. Right? So, especially if it's a t-shirt with seams along the top, you want those 2 seams to be lined up together. And then pull the sleeves out straight and as flat as you can. When you do that, the neck of it, you should be able to see the front and the back of the neck. Alright. This is going to give us our kind of basic outline of the tunic itself, but it's also going to show you where you're going to have your curves and everything from it. Okay? Set that around here. Now our sheet, and you can do this with regular material too, depending on how wide it is. But the flat sheets, doesn't matter whether it's linen or cotton, the big thing is you just want it to have washed it a lot. And that way all its shrink is done. When we fold this, though, we're going to fold it kind of in an odd way. Alright? The reason we're folding it strangely is so that we can get our length of our arms the way they're going to end up wanting to be, but also so we can cut it out in one solid piece. Okay? So, give me a second here. I'm going to move you guys. That way you can kind of see what I'm doing. Alrighty. Alright. Yeah, it'll kind of work out. See that. Everything, you guys still see things okay? Alright.
Yeah, I can see. Okay.
Alright. So first thing I want to do, I'm not worried about length or anything like that. I'm worrying about width. Alright. So I'm going to take my t-shirt. I'm just going to lay it down. Right now so the sheet is folded in the middle like the t-shirt is right now, and it's folded over. I'm just going to kind of lay it on there, stretch it out. May have to move you guys again. And I'm going to kind of figure out how long beyond my, t-shirt sleeves, how long I want the tunic sleeve to come down. Alright, so basically what you'll do is you'll fold your sheet in half long ways so that you're about roughly the length of your from the center of your t-shirt to the end of the sleeve, plus however extra long you want the sleeve to be. Now this is a fabric wasting tunic, okay, but it's quick because there are literally only 2 seams and everything else is hems. Okay, so maybe we'll just bring it around here.
So basically what you're doing is you're putting together a front and a back. Have I got that right?
Right, so what I'm doing, when it's all said and done, it's going to be one solid piece that is folded in half over your shoulders and then sewn down the sides.
Right. And then it'll be open on the sides, which you seam up.
Right.
Okay.
So right now, I'm just trying to get the width. So like here, you can kind of see how it's sticking out farther. So I'm about half a foot wider than the t-shirt right now. So I can make it a little longer if I want it longer. It's all a matter of how much you want it to hang down. This will probably end up mid forearm, roughly. Not going to go all the way down wrist length, but I can go ahead and do that. So one thing you can do to not have to guesswork and hold it up is just measure how wide half your t-shirt is. Okay, and then that's going to be your first fold. You'll have probably close to half your bed sheet left over. We're done. It all depends on how big of a person you are. Doing these things for kids and stuff like that, you'll have lots extra. Okay. So one thing I am going to suggest you do though before you make your next fold is put a little clip or a pin or something right here to hold this in place, because we're going to be doing a long fold, because that's going to be the over the shoulder. Okay, so
The front and the back.
right. So what I like using the little clips.
Yeah, those are pretty darn handy.
They are, especially when you're holding seams that are folded over. It's pretty handy. So
And they poke you like a bunch of pins can.
it's true. So for this, just to keep it kind of smooth, I'm going to put 2 on there. That way there's just basically 1 in the middle and then 1 at the end. Okay. There we go. So that'd be kind of like that. You can kind of see where the one end ends, and then I have all this extra sheet over here. Right. Now, depending on how long you want it, that just depends on where how long you go. In this case, I goofed and I folded it the wrong way.
Oh.
It's the same
Yeah.
fold, I just folded it widthwise versus, on the long. So that's an easy fix. So just fix it, fold it over again. For me, this is like This is just a full size sheet. So this may just do a tunic with long arms. Okay, so for simplicity's sake, I'll probably leave it that way. Because once I do my hems on the sleeves and stuff like that, I can adjust it a little bit and it's easy enough. So, go ahead that. Now our next fold is we're basically going to fold that length in half. Okay. So now, if you were looking at it from dead on, like say, here's where the neck hole would be, that's where it's going to fold over my shoulders.
Right.
Okay. So, for this, just kind of go and match up your corners nice and snug. You can use your clips to hold them in place. You know, this is mainly so things don't slip, because you're gonna, when you lay your shirt on there, you're gonna have basically 4 sides that you're dealing with that you don't want to slip around, and otherwise everything doesn't quite line up as nice and neat as you may want it to. So, okay. On the outside edges, it's not as big a deal. It's where the stuff would be on the inside. You want everything to kind of line up. So, there we go. I'll lay this out on the table here real quick, and then we'll be to the scary part of cutting it out.
I was under the impression that it's probably a good idea to iron your fabric flat. If, depending on your fabric, if it has a lot of thick folds or something in there, it might work a little better to fold and lay correctly if you iron it flat.
It also depends on how much room you have to work with.
There's that, yes.
So, if you have like a big dining room table,
board, but I use my ironing board, but yeah.
but like if you have a big dining room table and you have enough room to lay it out and smooth it,
Right.
or the big thing is like if say you're having to do this on the floor, doesn't matter how much you iron it down, the carpet and things like that, unless you got like, you know, a nice hard surface, you're still dealing with mushing things and stuff like that. So now what I'm working on right now is one of those like little 5-foot folding tables, you know, that just kind of fold into a suitcase.
Those are nice.
Now, guys, shift a little. Alright. The other thing is, because this is kind of a fabric wasting tunic, it kind of works in our favor that it is not perfect, because we're going to be doing curves and stuff like that. So, alrighty, see if I can. I'll move the camera here again in a second so you can see how I have it laid out. Alright, so here is the very important part before when you lay this down. All your outside loose edges, those are sleeve side. Your 2 creases, that's your inside. Okay?
So that is the part that is the closest to you?
Right.
It's the folded side?
Right.
Okay.
So basically you're going to lay your fold down along your fold. Okay?
Right.
So, and then you'll bring it up towards the top so that your shoulders are also up there. And then what will happen, you're going to do a little bit of adjusting on your sleeves, kind of laying them flat. Some t-shirts, when you get them, their sleeves go straight out, you know, and that's why you get those ones that kind of curl up at the top when they hang off your arm, and then others are cut so that they lay at an angle. Doesn't really matter. The big thing is we want the top of your shoulder to be even with the top of your shoulder, and then knowing where the bottom of the sleeve is. Okay? So, give me a second here, I'll show you what I did. Alright, let's see. It's a little hard to do from here. Alright, so see how I have it laid out here? Here's the top of the sheet where I folded it over. So that's the part that folds over your shoulders. And this is the inside of the tunic, inside of the sheet. So basically we're folded and fold. Alright. Get a little piece of paper here real quick.
Now this is making sense to me. Is this making sense to everybody else? Okay, okay.
I hope so, 'cause that's the goal. And there went the rocks.
I see you have a wonderful Ashford traditional wheel there.
That is Mr. Atwood's. All I do is make it spin sometimes. So, but basically, yeah, here's our sheet. Okay?
Right.
So, I'm going to fold it down so that it's, you know, from top to bottom, we folded it over. Okay. And then you'll also have a lengthwise fold. Alright. You're basically kind of, since this is a like full-size sheet, it's pretty equivalent to a piece of paper. Okay. So your first fold is going to be your lengthwise, because this is sleeve sides where it's open. Okay. And then you do your other fold over the shoulders. So it should look like that. And then all your pieces are flopping. This crease side that's all folds, this is where we're going to lay our tunic down. Okay. This is where we're going to lay
your t-shirt down.
Yep. Now lay our t-shirt down. Okay.
Okay.
Now, the next step, if you feel daring, you can go straight to cutting. I would suggest get a piece of chalk. If you have dark material, get a light chalk. If you have light material, get a darker chalk, like the blue ones. Okay.
I've also used slivers of soap.
Yes.
That works good.
The trick with those, though, is the slivers have to be thin. Otherwise, your lines can get wide on you and stuff like that. So,
yeah.
What we're going to do, back over here, so you can kind of see. This is not as ideal. Oh, wow. Hey, that worked. All right.
Oh, that looks really good. Yeah.
Yeah. So here is where, the inside armpit of the t-shirt is. So just for like an initial line, just kind of go straight out. You don't have to be perfect. This is just so we can get our t-shirt out of the way. Okay. And then on the body, so you can see how like t-shirt comes down, it kind of stops, and then everything else is out and down. We're going to come from under the armpit, and you're going to kind of curve your line you don't want to be right up against the t-shirt. We're going to be about an inch out so that it comes down. This gives us our seam allowance, because remember, this is not stretchy. You know, some t-shirts, even though they're stiffer because they're more broadcloth, don't always stretch, but they still got a little bit. Linens and cottons for the sheets aren't meant to really stretch, so we want to give it a little room. So we're going to come down. I'm about, I don't know if you guys can see the blue line or not, or if it's just kind of washed out or not. That a little better?
I can't see, but that's all right.
I'll show you here. So basically,
Right, now I can see it.
we're out here about an inch. We've kind of curved up here, and we're going away from the sleeve. Okay, you can make this broader if you want, so it's more of a dramatic curve. You know, this base, when you draw it like this, so see how I kind of made a triangle here? This is what would happen if you put a gore in, or a gusset, or if it was a more geometric tunic. Okay, so what we're going to do here is, once you get down to the end of your t-shirt, you're going to start curving away. Okay, this is where the fabric wasting comes in, is because since we're just kind of curving away and not making that triangle that you would for like a geometric tunic, that's kind of your waist. Now later we'll do another cut that kind of curves from here at the bottom, but we'll do a little bit of refolding to, you know, be able to work that up. Okay, everybody with me so far? All right, we'll sit you up here. I'm gonna start cutting, and that's always traumatic. So this is the nice part, where if you had fabric scissors that are meant to cut through multiple layers, make your life a lot easier. If you don't have them, it's no big deal. You just have to take your time a little bit. Okay, so a lot of those kits you get at like Walmart and stuff like that, they have like either the repair kits. Oh,
Whoops.
yep, sorry about that. I thought I had it more on its perch.
You're not helping me, Kitty. I have kitty help here.
Oh, I kicked out my cat help. Otherwise, they would be way too helpful.
Got a kitty helper. Everybody, I have to introduce you to my supervisor. This is Smokey.
Management. Okay. So now that we have this part, you're cutting all of this away. Okay? Before we do that though, we want to mark our neck hole. So this is where the fold of your t-shirt came in very helpful. Thank you, Alexa.
You're welcome.
All right. So you notice the shoulders are up higher than the bottom of the neck hole. All right. What you want to do is right up here. So where your little like hem of your shirt comes up, right up here in your fold, you want to make a little mark. Okay. So So basically that's half the width of your neckline on your shirt. And then on the inside fold, where it comes down and it curves around down here, we're going to make another mark on the front. So we're only worrying about the front half of our fold. Okay. The mark to the back is going to be on the back half. So like your t-shirt isn't even with the neck hole. The back always goes up higher than the front on a really good t-shirt, because the way your shoulders set, that keeps the neck from coming up and choking you all the time. And that's what we're going to do with our tunic too. So where it comes back down on the back, we'll make another little mark on the back portion. All right. And don't worry if you don't quite see this right now. When we unfold it, it'll be okay, because I'll lay out the marks again. Okay. But that's the main thing right there, is getting all those marks in, because now we can take the t-shirt away and start cutting. Okay. So, big thing you want to do right now, before you do your cuts though, is just make sure everything's kind of pretty close to creased out and lined up and even. If it's not even, it's okay. You're not going to be horribly off. And then what you can do is just, especially if you're working with a smaller table, just kind of slide the main body of the tunic you're making off the table, and then now you have room. Make your cut. And what it'll do is, unless you're holding on to this will kind of fall away as you cut. So you'll need to hold on to it, give it a little smooth, make sure you don't have any like big creases and stuff underneath. Alright, and then we're just going to cut it. This is the difference between regular scissors right here and fabric scissors. So I have a great big pair of like those really nice ginger shears that'll cut through this stuff like no big deal. But I want you guys to be able to see the, if you have nothing but this, you can still do it. Alright.
How many layers of fabric are you cutting through there?
This is 4.
Because of the folding.
Right. So we have our 2 folds, so it gives us 4 layers. And we're just kind of slowly work our way through. The longer, the sharper scissors you have, the better. Now, if you want to look for if you decide you want to do a lot more sewing more often, a good thing to do is wait till you have a 50% off one item coupon from Joann's, and then go to pick up one of the ginger shears or something like that. You can get them for as little as, I think when I use mine, I got mine for like $30 when normally they're like close to $65. Okay, and it makes a world of difference.
Great tip.
So what we're doing is we're just following our curve over, and then we're just going with that line that's straight out. Now, if you're doing this on the floor or on your kitchen table where you have enough room to have the whole thing spread out in front of you, I would suggest getting a yardstick or something to lay out your line so you know it's even and straight. you don't really worry about the bottom portion because that's meant to curve out. Okay. Now, these are going to go away and you'll have 4 separate pieces. But don't get rid of these because this is enough you could make yourself a Norse hood from if you want to. In fact, it's probably close to, you can almost make 2 depending on how delicate your math is and squeaking out the lines. Okay. Now, one thing I'm going to do before I unfold this to show the neckline is I'm going to go down to the bottom and curve this up. This is where you can kind of go back and kind of smooth things down as best you can. It still doesn't matter if it's not perfectly lined up because it's going to become your hem, and the hem can hide the sins of what you did. Okay? So what we're going to do is basically this middle portion down here where all your fold is, that's the center in front. So what we want to do is kind of come out and curve up and away. So it's basically, it's going to fake having a gore on the side of your tunic or your dress. Doesn't matter the length. If you get a longer sheet, like say off a king size bed or something, you can do a full dress from that. No problem. Okay. So these lined up here. Tell you what, I will grab my shears and show you how much of a difference this makes. So first, you can kind of tell this, just the blade difference is horrendous. These are also a ton thicker. Okay, so, but let me come over here. This you can kind of eyeball unless you really want to, you know, coax your curve over. Now don't start straight at the middle. You want to come out a little bit so that there's some like semblance of flat. See how like massively different that was? So this is one of those things. If you have the means to buy the tool that does it really well, spend your money on it when you can. Okay. So to be fair, I am now almost 47 years old and I didn't get one of these until this year. Every time else it was regular, you know, scissors. So, but with the exception of the neck hole, all your cuts are done. And you've only made 2. Okay. Now, here's one of the tricky parts because you're going to have to do some unfolding. So you have to make sure you know your marks are there. Alright. So we're going to unfold it from the shoulder, basically. What we're going to do is take our t-shirt back and just kind of lay our neck up here so it's kind of back up roughly even where our marks are. Just kind of make sure everything's lined back up. And then you're going to take your chalk and you're going to kind of make a not quite egg shape. So basically when you're done, because you're going from that back mark out to the edge and down to your front. And we'll get this good and drawn in. Show you. Hopefully I can do this without knocking everything down again. Alright, so you guys see the chalk line? So basically what I've done is I've basically made an oval that's offset of where the shoulders are. And the offset is forward, so that's going to be to the front of the tunic. That way it's also the same as, so like here on my t-shirt, the t-shirt will be down more to the front, you know, but the neckline is also more to the back. You can kind of feel where it hits. So like if you're standing up kind of straight, you can kind of feel the top of your t-shirt line hit the base of your, not quite the base of your neck. It's like mid third, fourth vertebra. And then the other part comes down right where your clavicles come down. So that's kind of the offset you're looking at having. Okay. And if it's not quite perfect when you get it cut out, it's okay. Because when you hem it up, you can adjust it. Alright. And then I'm just going to take this. This cut is a little easier because it's only basically 2 layers. And you don't have hems from the sheet in your way where you're cutting through even more layers when you're doing it to get started. So, but it's just a little cut.
Now, are you just folding back and hemming on that front edge, or are you talking about doing an interfacing?
We're just gonna hem it because this is basically just a quick and dirty to get it done.
Okay.
The
So we're
interfacing,
talking about folding back a bit.
right?
Just a,
The reason I'm doing that way is so I can also show you that you can do the hemming on a machine, and then you can do the finishing like if it was hand sewn, where you fold over and flatten your seams down, and you can do that by hand, and then it gives it the whole thing a hand sewn appearance, but it wasn't. Okay, so it's kind of it's cheating, but it's cheating in a good way. So.
well, we're also talking here about a first attempt, so.
Yeah.
No.
This is all about making that attempted appearance, and it didn't cost you a whole lot of money to do. Okay? Because sometimes you just have an old sheet that's laying around in the closet, or you can go by the Goodwill, get an old sheet there quite easily. You can get whole sets. My case, I went to IKEA, and they were having a sale on linen sheets. They had a giant bin. So I got like king size sheets for like $20 of linen. When you're talking a king size sheet, that's several yards of linen for less than you can buy it, you know, from like the online linen store, or like say Carolina Calicos that does Penzic and all the big events. Okay, so all our cuts are done. You are over halfway done with your tunic or your dress, however you're gonna do it. Okay, see how I just went right on over. So basically it's folded, my sleeves will go out here, same with here, and then on me, you know, once it was belted or something like that, it probably hit right about my knee, which for, you know, men's tunic is actually kind of extravagant when it comes to the length if you go by period stuff. The rest of it, you know, the neck hole probably is maybe slightly big, so I won't have to do a very big hem at all. Just roll it over and sew it down. Here is another thing you can cheat if you want to. It also depends on how long your arms are. Okay? So we folded this over just completely in half. The finished edges are still there. We can use those. So if you're not real super worried about, having all the finished bits and stuff, this is already finished. All we have to do is sew our sides. Little bit of the bottom, I would say just go ahead and fold it over and hem it because we cut through the hem that was there. And then hemming the neckline. So what I am going to do right now is I have access to Mr. Atwood's serger over here, so I'm just going to use that. I would show people how the machines work and stuff like that, but every single machine is different. So like, it's kind of the general thing. You just put it in, you go a little bit, you back up, you go all the way down your line, go back a little bit, boom, you're done. It's not even I wouldn't even really worry about any fancy seaming or anything like that. Just, simple zigzag or, straight stitch on it, and you're done. So one thing you do want to think about though is that when you're got this folded over, you want to see which way, if you use the finished side seams that are already there, you want them to be folded to the outside when you start sewing. So that way when you flip it over, after you've sewn your sides and you flipped it inside out, they'll be tucked on the inside. Okay? And this is why it doesn't really matter if you're real perfect with it, is because once we start sewing down this line, it's all going to disappear. Now, depending on how many alarms go off, depending on how snug you like your sleeves, what you can do is you can kind of pin this up so that it tapers, so that it comes down to more your wrist. Big thing is you want to be able to ball your fist and still get it through. Folding like this to get through is one thing, but when you're struggling to get your arms in and out, we're just trying to keep this simple. Okay, so give me a second here, get you guys removed, and then we'll just sew it up. And we'll do, is that clear as mud for everybody so far? The big thing is when you do your folds, don't be afraid to like take a piece of paper and kind of fold it like I did to have like a little guide. Okay? Because that makes a world of difference. I've done it a couple times where I folded it the wrong way and then I cut it and it was all over. So you can, sometimes you can recover from it, but most of the time it's like, no, I just cut that whole side in half and that's it, done. So
unfortunately I joined you late, missed the folding part.
Oh.
Can you quickly describe how it's
Yeah.
folded?
Okay, so like I'm working from a full-size flat sheet, okay?
Okay.
Which scale-wise actually works out to your normal piece of copy paper. All right. So what you're going to do is length. So we're going with our length. We're going to fold it in half.
Okay.
Down the long side. Then we're going to fold that in half again from widthways. That way, when it will have, one seam side, which is going to be our middle, and then where our edges are, that will be the outside. So that's where our sleeves will end and our sides will be.
Makes sense.
Okay.
And the neck hole is in the corner.
Neck
with
hole
all the
will be in the
folds.
corner. Yep. So what you do when you do
Okay.
the neck hole is you offset it. You're gonna have an oval, but you're gonna shift it towards the front a little. That way
Right.
it hangs down here.
I got that part, so
Yeah.
I didn't join too late.
Oh no,
Just
you're fine.
saw the folding part.
Yeah. So when you do it, you can kind of basically, if you think of, you're gonna shift it forward about an inch, and that's probably gonna be just right. So.
Okay.
But my wife, she's got a pattern hole where basically she's got it marked that here's the side, here's the shoulder fold, and here's the middle, and she just goes chunk, and it's there, and then she just traces around and cuts, and it's all done. So this, hopefully this doesn't shake anybody around. I'm just gonna run this down. This is kind of if you have the machine, you can have one of these done in an hour easy without, having to listen to me. Okay, it's just a matter of how prepared you are to, do your folds, make your cuts, and just sew it up, and you're ready. So. And hopefully this isn't too loud for you guys. Or hopefully I do this right, which I didn't. You know what it also helps to do? Make sure you have enough bobbin. Which I failed.
Yes.
Which I failed to do. And it's her server, so of course it's out.
Just fussing around here. Settle down.
Alright.
You're helping.
So how do we solve
You're helping.
this? Pull out the other machine. And that one's on the inside. Okay. Is most everybody comfortable with just straight sewing? Like on a machine? Just one seam? Okay. I would go to like...
By hand, I don't have a machine.
Oh, well, so yeah, I mean, it's the same thing. So, what you're going to do, I mean, it's going to be just like this. If you're using a serger, if you're using straight stitches, it's just you're going to come in about half an inch. I would do a zigzag stitch if you got a machine, just so it holds this together. Alright?
Mm-hmm.
But I will... If you're doing anything else, you might want to consider doing a finish seam. I'll finish sewing this particular one up later, and then I'll show you what a finish seam does. So if we're hand sewing this, you want to come in at least half an inch. Alright? This is where the clips come in, especially these smaller ones, because they are a half an inch. So I use them as my spacer. And then it also helps when, everybody's looking at your stuff going, ooh, is that hand sewn? And they see this really straight line, and they wonder how you did it. It's because you cheated. And you put a little measuring thing there. So.
I love cheating.
It's a cheat. But it's also nice is I can leave it there and it's all stuck together, and toss it in a bag, pull it back out, and it doesn't attack me. So that's the big thing is it doesn't attack. I do have some seamstress and tailor friends who have markings tattooed on their finger of like spacing. Because
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, so they literally have on the like along the inside of their middle finger where they hold things, there'll be like 1/8 inch hash marks, so they can just and not have to look. So
Not have to hunt around for a ruler, huh?
nope. So basically, okay, so we've got our seam here, right?
Not the way I want to get a tattoo.
Right. So finished seam, there's 2 ways you can do it. One's just thicker than the other. One is you can go on one side and kind of cut it in half and just kind of trim along. So, and definitely not using the dull scissors for this because it'll. So that when you're there, it only sticks up about halfway of the other one. And then what you'll do is you kind of fold this over. Alright. And then while it's folded over, you lay it flat. Now this is the one downside of those clips is they can't hold this down.
Yeah. That's the flat fallacy.
Right. So we got it flattened down. I don't lose my needle here. Now nothing is. I don't have this tacked down or anything, so it's nice and loose. Why is my thing just going X's everywhere? Sorry, my computer's trying to freak out on the other stuff. Alright, so what I'll do here is this, it's flattened out, it's kind of smoothed down. You can kind of smooth with your finger as you go. And then what you do, depends on how you hold it. My wife does it differently than I do because she's just gotten to this routine of how she barely grabs like 2 to 3 threads. But basically you're gonna hook through both sides. So this is just laid down. Which is hard to show. Let's see how you kind of, see if I can get over here. So you'll barely clip that outside bit and then come up through your fold. I got a couple here real quick. So what it does is on the inside you end up with what looks like kind of like a weird hash marked. It's like backslashes. But then on the other side, it looks like little cross-threaded things. And then what you do is you generally use like a complementary thread that can be like a little, like say this is bright white, but this is more of like an olive off-white. So you'll have little dash mark threads on this side, but on this side it's just little dashes that go up. Depending on how finely you do it, it can just look like dots as you go. Right, but what it does is it now has felled that seam so everything's held down nice and smooth. And this doesn't unravel. Okay. For linen and cotton, you probably want to do this unless you zigzag or serge your inside, because otherwise your threads are going to unravel and eventually you get little weird balls, and sometimes you can get holes in your seam. Or if you're using wool, you don't really have to do it. It's just a nice way of holding the seam down so you don't feel it rubbing on, the inside. Okay. So basically what we'll do is, like, when you take your tunic or your dress, like say on your on the neckline here. Here's the other thing you'll want to do that's very important, is make sure your seams are all on the same side. By that, like here it's folded outside, it's still inside out. When I fold over my neck, I want to fold it out towards me, not tuck it in. Otherwise, you're going to be tearing one of them out. Because when you look at it and all of a sudden your seam's out here, but the seam's on the inside, it's a pain in the butt. So, for the neck, this is when the handy clips come in, because they can handle curves.
Do you have any tips for felling on a curve? Do you clip corners or anything like that?
I do not. I actually go slow.
Okay.
What I do is
I find it tricky.
So what I do is I don't do the whole thing at once. Like I don't like tack it down all at once. I just work my way around, so that way I can pull the fabric a little and adjust it. So when I do,
So you're easing it?
yeah,
You're just doing it easy?
Yep.
And it's not too bulky?
right.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
So what I do is, like, I have all these clips, right? I have one that's a different color, and that's the one I put at the end. I only have like 6 of them, so I don't go beyond that. But what I do is I'll put them up like this. So, like this one goes away, this one goes away. I know this one's coming up. I don't take this one out until I've put these ones back in as we've moved around. Okay, so you see it's holding it, a nice about 1/2 inch down. I can go through, sew this down with a nice little straight stitch. I get to here, I stop. This one's already been, sewn on. As undo them. Sometimes I'll leave one. I'll stop like one ahead of time. That way I know, like, okay, if I take these apart, I'm gonna have to stop and put them in, and then I just, tack a couple more places. That way you just ease it around as you go. The other nice thing is, though, is when you do it that way, is you can kind of crease it with your fingers, especially with the linens. If you like say I get here, I haven't put any of those things in here. I can kind of take my fingernail and just kind of rub it along there, and it'll make a crease.
You don't use irons?
You're
not using an iron?
Not on a curve, because if you do it on the curve, if you're not watching what you're doing, you're gonna get a fold, and then the iron will fold your fold down nice and flat, and you're like, oh, okay. So this is the bit where you can ease it around, and then when you, like, say you go to you go to fell the seam, you've already got that circle to work from, and then you can just use that as your edge.
That's a nice trick. Thank you.
Yep. So
I like this. I like the clips idea. Those are great for keeping your seam straight.
So the other thing I've used is these bigger paper clips. but mainly I found that so far that using it's for like multiple layers if I need them held together and I want it more room. The only real drawback to these though is where the ends are, it can kind of catch at threads. So, but I can kind of twist towards the curve and it'll come right off. So I can sew right up to it and just slip it off and go. So, and the nice thing about that is depending on what I'm doing, it holds a lot more material down. And it just kind of makes it even. Plus, if I'm not in a real hurry, I can just slide it down. I don't have to unpin. I can just slide it over and kind of, especially if I'm trying to match things up. Good example is I have a wool tunic that I did. I used the pattern in the material as my spacer. So it was a lot of lining up of lines and stuff like that. And you can use something like this to kind of keep them in place and then go from there.
So where do people find their period fabrics? I know that looking at local places like Joann's and so on, they don't have much.
So
they really don't.
Linens and wools are going to be kind of really dependent on where you live in a lot of ways. So if you have an IKEA next to you, IKEA has a whole section of linen material by the bolt. That's actually really reasonable. Their only problem is they don't ship. Now, if you go online, I think it's the Linen Store is an online store for just linens and wools. I think some silks.
I think that's fabric.com, I think. Isn't that fabric.com?
There's a couple. One does like specifically linen. Let's see what the computer says. Another one that's like an SCA merchant is Carolina Calicos. Wade deals in linens and wools. He's at pretty much all the major wars.
I ordered and got the material and started my first outfit, but I really had a hard time with linen because it's really pricey and it's also hard to find. I ended up buying a linen cotton blend. So for my first outfit, it'll just have to do.
Oh no, and that's dandy.
No,
I mean, they're great. In fact, you could be totally cotton, and I would say go for it. I really would. Let's see. It's fabrics-store.com.
Fabrics-store.com.
Yep.
Okay, I can remember that.
But the big thing is when you look.
What about wool? Because so what I saw was that wool twill is really kind of the idea, the ideal. And when I search for wool twill, I don't get much. I get a lot of melton results, and that's coating fabric, right?
Right. A lot of it's going to be keyword dependent. If you put wool twill, you're going to find those suit fabrics.
Okay, a lot of stripes and patterns that really aren't appropriate.
So stripes, and there are patterns, there are stripes. Okay. In fact, I'll tell you what. If you're willing to wait for me to run off to a different room real quick, I will get a couple different wools.
Sure.
And I can show you guys. Because there's massive differences depending on where you go and what thicknesses and stuff like that. I'll be right back. So these, like these two, totally period. It's just simple greens and grays, stripes. It's all a matter of how it was laid out on the loom. Okay. This one is kind of almost a plaid. It's perfectly acceptable. Somebody tells you, oh, that's too modern, whatever, just ignore them. They didn't do the work. So the tunic.
Well, I would imagine some simple plaids would have been done then, but none of the like colors that I see. You know, the bright colors.
It depends on the color. They had bright colors in period. The Norse loved bright colors.
Well, I know they had red from madder and indigo and woad and so on. And that they could get some bright colors that, like, not pink and stuff like that. I don't
Actually, you can get a hot pink.
Not neon.
Not neon, but you can get a hot pink. It all depends on just how well it was morded and holds. Otherwise, it tends to fade. But like this tunic here is actually cotton. It's a bed sheet. It's the same thing that happened.
You said?
Yeah. But it was finished with a thicker thread. Just a little offset. But just a zigzag stitch.
Yeah.
Looking from unless you got up and touched me, you would not know the difference.
Well, I took on a little bit too aggressive a project. I ordered that linen and I started making, hand sewing a 10-panel gown. Now I've been to 3 events having nothing to wear. So I need to make some quick and easy things so that in a year when I finish this, I haven't missed everything.
I totally understand. So like the more green one was a Queen's Prize entry.
Oh.
So that was like a full on. So I didn't really show you I just showed you the stuff. So this is how my seams were felled down.
Oh, you did.
So I did multiple colors. But this is where I was talking about. I used the pattern of the material as my spacing. So quite literally, it's dark line to dark line, and I just use that.
That's pretty.
So
how thick is that wool?
This
is
really
that
pretty
looks thick.
It is. It's a furnace. It has to be like one of those really cold and mostly outside events for me to think about wearing this. The other one is about maybe half the thickness, and I can wear a lighter tunic underneath.
Yeah, I'm kind of going to want to look for something that's a pretty light wool.
So
I think, but it's hard.
Yeah.
Hard to find.
So
especially shopping online because you really can't feel it and see what you're getting.
Plain weave is always going to be period. Plain weave.
Yeah.
Does it hold up, plain weave wool?
Oh yeah.
Sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is a wool, but it's much thinner. It's really actually very thin. It's not, in fact, it's probably not much thicker than that linen. But, it's got a lot of color. It's got a lot of stripe.
Yeah.
This blue, though, this is linen. It's a thick linen. This is the stuff that came from IKEA. It was just on a bolt. So if you have a chance, you can like go into one. Like this was on when we found it. It was on sale, and it ended up being like $3 a yard or something crazy.
I'm gonna have to make a trip to IKEA. The nearest one is like 5 hours from me, but close to where my son lives. So next time I go to visit,
it might be just like a matter of like you send him and say, "Hey, go in here. This is what I'm looking for."
Well, I could send my daughter-in-law. She'd love to shop for me.
So, speaking of IKEA, these are linen sheets. You know, if you... this one's a double, but they had like... Last time, a bunch of our friends were in KC, they're like, hey, they have a whole bin of king size. I think that ended up being close to like 5 to 6 yards of material in 2 sheets plus the pillowcases. You can't really beat that.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. That's great.
So, and that was, I think, yeah, these were $19.
That's a steal.
Yeah, so it like ends up like ridiculous cheap. Another place to look is sometimes thrift stores. Because like this is a really thick cotton. And I got like 5 yards of it for like $12 or something. It was.
I did find a nice thing at a thrift store. I found a curtain that was linen, but it's a really loose weave linen. You know, it's not tight. It's going to be good for, you know, an underskirt or something like that. Maybe.
It's been washed. So that the trick with linen is you want to put it in the machine by itself, turn it on to nuclear hot, and wash it like 3 times before you do anything. My wife does it
I
like...
messed that up. I did it once.
So,
Well, I suggest that with cotton too, because cotton off trend.
Yeah, the only thing you don't ever get to do that with is the wool. Otherwise, you'll end up with a napkin.
True.
Be filthy.
Or
But
felt.
like draperies, though, sometimes are wool. You just have to look at them. So I got this stuff. This stuff is a lighter wool, and it was one of the gals in our kingdom went to, I think, a church was being remodeled, and they had all this stuff that just said, hey, come get it. She went and got all their curtains. So it was ridiculous amounts of gray wool for, here you go. You know.
Nice.
So like this, it really just you know what you're looking for. Sometimes you can go into Target or Walmart. They'll have really nice Egyptian cotton sheets that are like marked down silly. Grab those. I mean, it'll do everything you want. If you do a more geometric style, you know, tunic or dress, you can get a lot out of a sheet. And it's just a matter of, you know, placing your cuts and doing your measurements and stuff like that.
Yeah, sheets have a lot of yardage.
Yep. And the big thing is they have a lot of width, which you don't really get on your bolt.
That's true, because I know some of these other fabrics are like 45-inch widths, which makes the pattern layout harder.
Right. So generally your average is going to be 45, but you might get 60, you know, inch widths. These are like, oh geez, finished size. This one's like almost 78 inches wide.
Wow.
You know, so that's
definitely worth considering.
Yeah, I mean, we cut out the whole tunic wasted fabric, you know, to do it, but it's done. You know, that it's 3 cuts and some seams. You're done. You have a tunic. You can now go and toss that in a pot with some Rit dye. It doesn't have to be period dyes. Sorry, most of the people don't even know how the period dyes worked.
Yeah, that's much, much later. We're going with Rit for a long time, I think.
Well, so I have one of my friends that lives in Antier. She does period dye research. She can get bright colors and show you exactly how to do it. You just have to have the right things. Yeah.
Yeah, I ordered seeds, and I'm not good, but I'm not ready to do that kind of thing. But,
So
I ordered lots of seeds for that.
a simple one would
The
be.
seeds will keep for a while.
Yeah, well, a simple one would be just get some turmeric. Turmeric makes a lovely yellow. I mean, it's
Does it really?
yeah.
Mhm.
You
I
literally
have turmeric, lots of turmeric, like bulk turmeric actually.
right. So you
My
just
husband
get some of
cooks
that, like whatever kind of hue of the turmeric you want. They're like the real kind of goldeny color.
with it. Yeah.
Works the best. The paler it is, I mean, literally, it's going to be that pale. Just dump it in a pot of hot water till it kind of dissolves away, and then just dunk your fabric in. Stir it
What do
around,
you
mix
use
it
for
around.
mordant?
You don't.
You don't have to mordant for it? No? Oh,
No, it'll fade a little bit, but turmeric is a great stain.
cool.
Kool-Aid.
Yeah, it's pretty bright.
Kool-Aid is a great stain.
I did my hair with Kool-Aid once. I know.
Yeah.
my niece told me that it would wash right out, and I went to work for a week with pink hair.
Yeah.
Oh, damn.
I used to live in a place called the Punk House. Guys were very creative with how to dye the hair, how to stand it up, you know.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So, but yeah, you can. The big thing you want to remember though is linens do not dye as well as cottons.
Oh really?
They don't suck it in the same. So you gotta
What
leave.
about wool?
Wool is gonna be a little somewhere in between.
Okay.
It's also gonna depend
You
on
have to have an acid. You have to have an acid-based dye
right or
to get it
For
to
linen?
stay.
Oh, for wool. For
right.
wool.
Well, because it's got to
Yeah.
cut through the natural
Oh, the lanolin.
lanolin that's in there.
Yeah.
So, like, say you did the turmeric, and like, say you had a roughly like off-white wool. If you did the turmeric, you might have to put like a little lemon juice in there to like
Oh.
cut through. It's not,
Well, the acidity is what helps it
Yeah.
to stay fast, though.
yeah, but
You
it,
can use vinegar too.
Yeah.
You can use vinegar.
yeah, and it's not hard. It's just finding everything. Rit dyes though are great because you get them hot and you put them in there. Well, you can dye hot. You just have to let it cool. You don't want to put it in the dryer because the second you put it in the dryer,
Yeah. And not agitate it too much in the water. Yeah.
So the
I've
night-
had that issue with yarn.
yeah. The nice bit is the older machines that you can just fill to a certain level and leave alone, and it'll just sit. Otherwise, you're just doing it in a pot or what I've seen done a lot is just get a plastic tub that you don't care about
Yeah.
and put it in there.
I have bus tubs that I use for yarn for that.
Yeah.
Do
So-
yarn.
All the colored yarn, the colored threads on that tunic were dyed. So, and they're wool. So I just dumped in. There was an orange and like a blue Rit dye. The other was the white, just the way it was. So I just wanted different colored thread. So the big thing you want to do is do it in big batches if you want to make sure you have enough.
Oh yeah, because the dye lots will be different.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, other than that, what you're looking at is you want something when folded in half gives you the length you want. Width-wise, unless you want to cut a tube, that'll give you your length. Basically,
Yeah.
this width in half is going to give you from the center to the end of your sleeves. And then this down here is going to give you your overall length. So, and it really doesn't
I'm
matter.
gonna jump right in and make one of those.
You
It
know-
looks like a fun. It looks like fun.
Well, and if you have the machine handy you're comfy with, or you're comfy doing the hand sewing, this is literally an evening time project, and you're done.
Yeah, I'd probably do this on the machine. The other is my, the other hand sewing project. That's my big adventure. But for quick and easy clothes, I'll just machine them up.
Yeah.
Give
And
myself a little base wardrobe.
for going to an event as your first event, or just you're getting used to it and trying to figure out what you want to do, this is the easiest way to do it.
Yeah.
Short of borrowing something from somebody, This is like the minimal
So the tunic
effort.
that you just laid out, would that be kind of a Viking or Nordic style?
It's
what
going
you
to
were
be
showing us?
almost the majority of Western Europe at some point or another.
Okay.
So there's not a whole lot of, you can do different embellishments to it. So like some of them have what are called yokes, where they have like the more slotted neckline, and then they have a different colored piece that comes over the top. A lot of those had like embroidery on them. If the tunic wore out, they took that off and put it on the new one.
I'm doing a 15th century French character. So, you know, Renaissance, I'll get to embellish more. But to begin with, I don't have time for that.
Yeah, I can't really help with the
Yeah, you
one
need
true
something.
century.
Yeah, I'm gonna start out simple and work toward that.
So, and I mean, so here's the other thing. There is nothing saying you have to, you know, quote unquote, dress like a lady. You can literally make one of these tunics, get some nice comfy pajama pants, tuck them in some boots, have a belt, and you're ready to go. There's no...
I saw that. SCA is not, you know, it's pretty gender flexible.
Well, the other thing is we're multiple cultures. So until you're, you know, until you find that thing that you really dig, and there are people who never find it, they just deep dive into all sorts of different things. There's nothing saying you have to stick with one thing. There's nothing saying that you can't just go, okay, it's really hot, so I'm Roman today.
I'm totally a dabbler. I love to learn things and then move on.
Well, I live in Calentier. It's the Midwest.
That's me too.
A lot of the time we are, you know, during the summer, we're all Romans or Greeks. You know, until winter, and then everybody becomes a Norseman because it's cold. You know.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Like good examples, like this last weekend, I was at Griffin's Fest. It was cold.
I didn't go. I saw it though. That's what I didn't go. I had another obligation, but I really missed it because I saw the pictures and it looked great.
Yeah,
Like,
well,
a lot of fun.
and you would have seen me there. So.
Oh, okay.
That's the other thing is don't think you're required to have a certain amount of look, especially when you're new to what you're doing. It's best attempt. That's the only rule the SEA has, other than don't be a dick. Seriously, and that's be nice. That's all people want.
Everybody is so nice. Seriously, I found my people. That's what I think.
I mean, there's a reason I'm still here. You know, I took a break because I was having kids and family and stuff like that. And after I got divorced, I looked at it, I was like, wow, I don't have the people that I would normally turn to. And that's why I went back. So
I wish I knew about this 20 years ago.
I wish I'd stayed the entire time. I think it would have been a lot different. So there's...
Well, you're back.
Yeah. And probably having way more fun than I did as a kid. It's a different kind of fun now. So.
Were you? Oh, yeah, you did join on your own. I remember your story from last time. I was wondering if you were second generation there for a minute.
I am one of the few that is not. So, especially for my age group now, I'm definitely one of the few that is not.
Yeah.
So, and at the time when I started, that was extremely rare. Because, you know, they didn't know what to do with, you know, feral teenagers that were interested in, you know, the same things.
Feral teenagers.
I was a feral teenager. I
love it.
Well, so, like, a good example is I went to get authorized. Well, when I first showed up, I said, I want to do that. And they're like, well, you have to be 16. I'm like, cool, I'm 16 in a couple months. And they're like, well, I'll come back in a couple months. They should have said stay. But said, come back in a couple months. Came back in a couple months. So I'm 16 now, I want to do this. And they're like, well, you have to have your parents' permission. They thought I had parents there. And I'm like, cool, what do I need for that? Well, you need a waiver signed by your parent. Cool, got it. Right now. I literally got it, drove home, had my dad sign it. Came back. Like, well, no, we need to meet him. I'm like,
Oh, shit.
that's
Yeah.
not what
Oh,
that's not
right.
what you said. So we kind of went back and forth. I actually went to an event. I was all set to authorize. I had everything, and they told me no because my parent wasn't there, even though I had everything signed.
Yeah, I was a feral teenager too. I would have forged it.
Oh no, he was okay with it. He just couldn't be there. It wasn't his thing. He had his work and stuff like that. My mom didn't understand it, but it was, hey, here I am. Let's do this. I didn't go away. In fact, after a while, I brought my friends, and they had more feral teenagers invade.
Yeah.
But some of those feral teenagers are now Laurels.
Yeah.
And doing really amazing stuff. Some are knights.
I'll bet you some of those feral teenagers would have gone a not so nice path in life had they not been
Some of us
an
didn't.
activity.
Some of us didn't. Some of us
Yeah.
went off, did self-destructive things, and then we came back. And that's how we cleaned up our act.
Yeah.
So it is a lot of fun. There are some really great people. The other thing is there's lots of people, no matter what you're really looking at doing, you can find somebody that'll help you. Even if they can't tell you
Yeah,
exactly.
so far.
Yeah.
I'm seriously, people line up to help you, and plus all the great groups that count into your website. You get onto all these great Facebook groups too.
Mhm.
I've been signing up left and right to these Facebook groups.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I mean, other than that, that's kind of the simplified version. I wish the machine had, been a little more cooperative, and then we would have just had it sewn up and I go boom. My goal is though with these classes, I'll do another one. It'll be the next piece. I think probably next time it's just going to be a hood. And I have a plan where I'm literally going to take the pillowcases, turn them into hood. It's on like super quick and dirty.
Cool. Well, thanks for the class. This is great. Appreciate your help here.
I'm sorry it wasn't as technologically sound as I was hoping to be. So
We're all good.
I think I'm gonna kind of cheat next time, and I will just put it as Facebook Live, and then set something else in the conversation. That way it can just be running, but you guys can still talk to me. The other thing is, like, I've had my computer going, so it's YouTubing, so you can go back and look at it, and then eventually the Facebook video will pop back up too.
Okay.
So, and if you need any help, don't hesitate to give me a holler. I'll be more than happy to help with it. And then next week I'll have this finished. And I'll probably what I'll do is, like, as the pieces get done, I'll wear them. Show them off, do a hood to go with it, and then maybe we'll do like a turmeric dye. So I can just show folks how easy it is. So,
Fun.
anybody else got any questions or anything?
No, I don't think so. Not for now. I'll give it a shot and see how much I remember.
Okay. Yeah. I think the big thing is, like, showing how the folds go. Really.
Yeah.
Because sewing it up is pretty quick. So, and then, yeah. If you need me, just holler. I'll walk you through it if you need it. So,
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Nice to see y'all.
Thanks for wasting your Monday night
Next
with me.
time.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Man. Okay. Technical difficulties beyond my control. Sucks. I don't like the way Facebook changed their stuff, but it's there. So,